Okay, so in this video, I'm actually going to give some background that will be useful to catch up with some of the previous videos that I recorded, but either had sound problems or traveling or all of the above. And as I'm traveling now, I'm going to be using this setup with a screen that is broken, but it's good enough. It has like HDMI, it's still connected to this Qualcomm one, and it also has touch, which is nice, okay? And let me just prove it that if I click here several times, several windows will be open. Okay, so you'll probably see that. It will be easier when I, just use the camera. So that's the setup that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to actually take care of all of the connectivity in the road things. And I'm going to enable a remote desktop, and I'm going to enable VNC. And I'm going to enable SSH and all kind of other things which I might have done before. So before I start, let's just see what happens when I boot the device. Okay, so I saw what's going on. I'm no longer that interesting. Let's see if we see here things. I'm going to disconnect this fellow here. We already saw that it's this board, and you believe it. And we should see Yocto Project animation. Okay, and it's like increasing, and then we'll have our nice Weston here. Now, of course, this setup is not very amazing because look, I have like a keyboard here. I'm going to use like to type, but just going to go ahead and see what's going on. IPA, and I have an IP address which is 192.168.16.104, and I'm going to SSH to it. But before that, I'm going to see what port it exposes. This will be like part of our setup. And it also illustrates some tricks. Now, if we don't know anything, it's not the end of the world. What we could do is go ahead and like see what our IP is. And in this case, it's 192.168. Oops, that's the wrong one. 192.168. 16. We can put here whatever, and then let's say our net mask, which in this case it's not 24, but it would be good enough, okay? But I already know the IP, so I'm just going to, I know it's 104 because I have keyboard, because I have display, because I all kind of thing. And I did mmap. I was trying to program in C. Very clever of me. And so if we do it like this, we can see like a several ports. One of them is SSH, the other one is RPC bind, which is for port mapper, and the third one, 3389, is for remote desktop. Now, my experience is that remote desktop is terrible in this kind of thing, and I've not been using remote desktop in ages. It's quite funny because I made a display protocol company and I researched very heavily Microsoft RDP when I founded Nova Software, and it's a really good protocol. But with Weston, it's really bad from everything that I know, which is why later I will show how to enable VNC. But I think, yeah, screen is shared. So we know that we have like this fellow here. So I'm going to do 192.168, 16.104. I'm going to SSH it. By default, there is like a dropper there, like in the Yocto that we built. There is like a dropper server that allows to connect as root, and we can go ahead and take advantage of that. And the interesting thing is that, I mean, it's not so interesting. I had my reasons like to set up a user and password, but I modified that. Okay, so this is like the setup that I have, and we can see here that I have this fellow. Now let me just see a little better. So we can see that this is the IP, and we're happy. Now what I did here, basically, I started WPA like from somewhere, okay, like from a startup script. I made here like a hack and over. I did something very trivial. Let's see. RC5, which is the default ROM level, and sorry, RC5.d, yeah. So, there is like the thing that you have, like service, start, stop, there is like a syntax for that. So for example, the SSH server is set up automatically because we have that, but you don't necessarily have to give it like a start, stop, restart, and so on. You can, if you do that, and you can utilize start, stop daemon, but you can just put whatever, do it as quick as you want to and as dirty as you want to, and then you're done. Now, speaking of like the RPC bind, this is why we have this, because all of these are part of this. And speaking of Weston, we also have this because Weston is being started here. So since we already covered quite a bit of Weston, we can see here what we use. If there is like an environment, do blah, 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 blah. We check the command line. If Weston equals false, like in the kernel command line, then we disable it. So if we have access to the command line, which in Qualcomm will not have easily via fastboot unless we boot the kernel like differently than we want. Then we source some things. We put you like a Weston user. By default, it would be Weston. I modified it to root for some reason. You really don't need to do that. And then we can provide like all kind of args if we want to via the opt args environment variable. So I think I did quite, I did a really good, in my opinion, like debugging session troubleshooting on Weston, but the sound was very, very, very bad. And honestly, don't even remember what I did there. But this image like came up out after I edited it. But speaking of the networking, I did something like really quick and dirty. I said, okay, and this there is a good, very good takeaway from what I'm going to say here. Listen to this. I mean, I do these things like in my courses in troubleshooting and stuff like that. But look at this. First of all, we say, okay, so WPA applicant dash B dash A blah 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 at CWA path. So this is why we saw this. Then we do like udhcpc, okay? And now when you want to do like a bring up, you want to decide what you want first, like networking or like display, like what do you want to troubleshoot or debug first. So that's quite important, okay? And it will be up to you to decide like what you do, when and how. So this is like super simple, without start, without stop. I did it like in a second. And what I did do in the image that I built, look where it came from. So this one, I mean, for setting up the SSH, we don't need MetaOE. This is enough, okay? Just like this. We'll undo, but you can skip it, okay? Just like this. And essentially, we don't need like way too much from that. But what I will show like some fixes, some things in a subsequent video when I actually talk about like RDP or VNC. I'll just make the video shorter. So that if there are sound issues, then I don't need to re-record things, although I don't need to do anything. So we started the build, so temp deploy images, I just put it there. Look what I did. So what I did, uh, what I did is took like the resulting image, which is a link to like a file, and this is the Qualcomm, this is the machine type, okay? And I'll show it when I show the conf file that I used to build Qualcomm. I think I used it in the first video that I put on Qualcomm like this year. And basically, we did like when I showed the QDL, we unzipped this fellow and then we used the fastboot flash, okay? After we fixed like the partition tables and all this kind of thing. So instead of like rebuilding the Yocto project, waiting, seeing, maybe making mistakes, maybe not, and even if you don't know anything, you're just like a researcher who just want to modify something and don't want to learn Yocto because it's not so easy and it takes time to get used to it. Then what you can do is just unzip it, repackage it. So I put several such files, okay? All of them, you can see that they are like file system data, okay? UID is different because each one of them came after like a build, particular build, okay? And what I did was like having like an empty directory, and then I did something like, I don't know, I will not change it now, but let's do this. Let's do the latest one. And then I think I called my root my mount. And then like I did the changes and then did like a sync. So if we go like to Etsy, we can see or maybe here, sorry, call it what WPA pass. And then we're fine more or less, okay? So you can see what's happening here and like prepare some things for debugging or learn and so on. I showed it several times before. Before doing anything, it's good to unmount. Definitely good to like to sync. And this is the setup, okay? So the setup is that we have like SSH. And over the setup, what I will show later, I also have like RDP here, but there is something that I want to show because like to go ahead and configure RDP, you need to do all kind of things. So we'll do it in the next session, and that's it. So I hope you find it useful. Just like for like if you look like at the screen, let's make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, so this is like our nice Weston here. Unlock, woohoo! We unlocked it, and that's like how it goes. And we saw that like RDP is set there, which means that if we have like an RDP client and things are configured correctly, we can go ahead and work with it. So this is it for this video, and I'll show some tricks of like doing RDP and of doing VNC without modifying Yocto. We can of course later also incorporate some of the things in our recipes, uh, as well as like setting like the SSH to be like that. So that's all for this video.